Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. This time I am back with a bit of a question for you guys, and that question is it worth it? So, before we jump into that though, as per usual, if you like this type of content, please give it a thumbs up, drop me a comment down below, and be the absolute hero that I know you are, and make sure you are subscribed to the channel. It all goes a massive way to helping out and keeps me kind of focused on doing this. So, the question is it worth it? As per usual, it's always a very, very tough question to answer, and we're going to try to. So, there are a few fairly recently announced items that I wanted to have a talk about with you guys, and we're going to ask that question, is it worth it? So, firstly, we don't know the prices of these just yet because they have only really just been announced just over about a week ago. I would have done the video early this week, but in all honesty, I've not been feeling 100%, and then we've had some really, really hot weather in the UK, and I've not wanted to turn my PC on because of it, because, you know, I don't like recording these things and sweating to death. Anywho, so firstly, we've had some new Warhammer Age of Sigmar in sets kind of announced. So we're going to go first off with the first smallest one. So the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Introductory set. So this set is designed with the 100% new to the hobby type of person in mind. Let's call them Little Timmy. So Little Timmy is tabletop gaming curious but doesn't know where to start and is interested in the high fantasy setting that is the Age of Sigmar. So Little Timmy ventures into his local Warhammer store or independent retailer and gets shown this box. This box contains 5 Stormcast Eternal Liberators, 20 Skaven Clan Rats, 6 paints, a brush, 6 dice, a range guide, a playmat, and a 48-page book, giving Timmy the basics to Age of Sigmar, building, painting, and playing. But you might be thinking Little Timmy's going to need a few extra bits and pieces, and they don't seem to come with this. So like things like clippers, for instance, what's going to go on with them? Now, GW have apparently done something quite clever. They've produced frames that do not require clippers. They are push-off frames. Now, I want to see these in action, in all honesty, because I can't remember seeing any other GW products that has a push-off frame, and I am one of these people. I like to be very, very neat. I like to remove mold lines. I hate that little plastic tab that you get when you're clipping off any sprues, to the point where I have a little sanding pads which helps smooth out those areas if it's a curved area, especially because using a normal file kind of makes a flat spot. Now, I want to see these. I want to see how good they are. I want to see how it's done and how much of a mess it leaves behind on the mini. I'm hoping not very much of one, but who knows. So, the other thing to note with this set is that the paints are all the basic colours for your generic Stormcast Eternals, which are the Hammers of Sigmar colour scheme, and a basic colour scheme for the lovely Verminkin that we've now got from the newest edition. We also get a few extra bits and pieces in there, so let's go through the paints first. So first off, we have Retributor Armour, a very, very good gold colour. I do use it. I really, really think it's worth it. To be honest, I use it for my Lions of Sigmar. I use it for a lot of other gold sections on things, and it's, yeah, a paint that a lot of people use. Cantor Blue, one that I don't use that often, in all honesty, but it's still a very, very good colour. It does work very, very nicely, and it's a decent shade of blue as well at the same time. Lead Belcher, very, very, very handy. A dark silver paint that works very, very nicely for steel and for that kind of look. So this is a very, very good paint to have in that collection. Corn Red, I use quite a lot of it. I'm not going to lie, anything that's red I do base coat with Corn Red first, because it's a very versatile shade of red. Ratcar Flesh, in all honesty, I don't use it very often. It does work very, very well. However, I only ever use it on things like what's meant to look like cloth and stuff like that. You can use it for skin tones. I don't though, personally. You can use it for Skaven skin tones. No, I probably wouldn't, in all honesty. And yeah, it's one of them paints where it can be a bit thin. And it does require a very, very good shaking, because it can go a bit separated and gloopy in the bottom of the pot. The last colour is Steel Legion Drab. Now, Steel Legion Drab, in all honesty, the only real thing I use it for is rimming the base, which sounds a bit wrong, but putting a rim around the base for certain colours, that's the only real thing that I use Steel Legion Drab for. I do use it a little tiny bit on leather, but not very often, so it's one of them paints where it's neither here nor there, in my opinion. Now, these are all very, very basic paints, and you're going to need something to apply them with, and in all honesty, you get the standard GW cheap rubbish starter brush to apply with them, which it's okay for little Timmy because it's a very basic brush. However, I will always advise go for a better brush. If you are little Timmy and you are going to get into his hobby and you want to paint up and make very, very nice minis and paint very nice minis, I would use the starter brush for your base coats and your priming and such like that, and then I would get yourself some decent brushes over it, whether you're going for the Citadel brushes, which can be quite expensive at around about £5 each, which is a bit over the top, or you can get sets from places like Vallejo. Personally, I'm using at the moment a triple set from Vallejo, which I thought I'd give it a try. They're actually really, really good brushes. They're triangular brushes as well, so they're easier to grip than the very, very thin round brushes, especially when you've got problems with joints like I personally get at the moment, but they're very, very good. You can get other brushes as well, so if you go to places like ABC Brushes, you can get a whole set of brushes, about 20 quid. Otherwise, shop around, get yourself some really good brushes, and away you go. Now, the other thing that I would say with this is it's a decent set for little Timmy to get started, so it does work out quite well. But if you're not so much of a new starter to tabletop wargaming, you might be more of a regular Robert who might have played a tabletop game but hasn't really gotten into one, and the starter set would be more of a correct product for Robert. So this is a bigger box with more minis, 35 to be precise, and regular Robert will be able to get his hands on 35 push fit minis, because push fit just seems to be the way that's easier to get going for pretty much anybody into a hobby. For the Stormcast Eternals, you get the new Lord Veritant with Griffcrow, 3 of the Winged Prosecutors, and 5 of the Hammer Wielding Liberators, and they will go up against the growing vermin threat in the shape of a Greyseer, a Warlock Engineer because they are on the same sprue from the new Skaven type box set, 3 Rat Ogres, and 20 Clan Rats. So, a decent amount of minis to get going. Now, obviously, these minis will need regular Robert to actually pick up a couple of extra items, so he is going to need clippers. So you don't get these with that. He is also going to need paint, because you don't get those with the set, and brushes, because also they don't come with the set. The box itself does actually give regular Robert a 64-page book for all the background information, tutorials, basics for the game, plus it will give a set of 10 dice, a double-sided game mat, 2 reference sheets, and 2 range guides. Now, I'm not going to lie, if you are into wargaming already and you want to just change and try out a different scenario and a different setting more than anything, this is actually a pretty decent box for regular Robert to get into, because it helps get him going and it gives him everything that he actually needs at a very, very basic level to get going. So, apart from the paints and the clippers and everything like that, as per usual. But it's not too bad. It's pretty good for an introductory tabletop hobby gaming lesson. But if you are a bit more experienced in the tabletop games, in all honesty, you might want to get into AOS, and maybe you're more of a magnificent Melissa who may have already played, say, 40k, but has then decided, I want to give Age of Sigmar a bit of a try, so the Age of Sigmar Ultimate Starter Set might be right up her alley. So this is a way of jumping into the Spearhead game mode for 2 people in one box. It includes every item from the starter set, plus the Stormcast Eternals Lord Vigilant on Gryffstalker, and for the Skaven, a Clawlord on Gnaw Beast. So in terms of minis, that's 2 Spearhead sets for Magnificent Melissa to get her hands on. Now, I will also say that this box also does contain the double-sided game mat, 10 dice, plastic terrain as well, so this is the same plastic terrain that you get in the Skaventide box. You get 2 decks of the Battle Tactics cards, 2 twist decks, which are the ones that you also get with Skaventide. You get a 3-inch and 6-inch ruler, because that's on the same sprue as the terrain from the Skaventide set. You also get a 72-page handbook for all the information of playing the game, and also the 144-page Spearhead Fire and Jade book that you also got with Skaventide. All of this is actually a very, very good place for Magnificent Melissa to start a new adventure within the Age of Sigmar and the Mortal Realms. It's also a very, very good place for, say for instance, if 2 people want to get into it, they could easily buy that box, split it halfway, split the sprues, and go for each faction that they want. So if somebody wants to play a Skaven and somebody wants to play a Stormcast, absolutely perfect. Buddy up, split the money, you just share the books essentially, and you could play together on a regular basis. So for instance, if it's a couple, and they want to get into it, they could. If they want to do get into it with a pal, you can. It's a nice way of doing things, so it's very, very good for, and a good place to start for 2 players, so definitely worth it. Then, in all honesty, last but not least, as per usual, there will be new edition paint sets for the Age of Sigmar. So first off, we are going to get Stormcast paint set, which comes with 3 Liberators, a standard brush, and then 6 paints. So the paints are Retributor Armour, Cantor Blue, Corax White, Lead Belcher, Agrax Earthshade, and the technical paint Astro Granite for all your basic needs. So it's not too bad. The Skaven paint set that is going to come out includes 5 Clan Rats, the standard brush, and paints. So paints will be Lead Belcher, Ratcar Flesh, Steel Legion Drab, Corn Red, Agrax Earthshade, and a part of Astro Granite. So there is a little bit of crossover between the 2 sets. So you get in good old Lead Belcher, Agrax Earthshade, and Astro Granite in both sets, which is a bit meh, really. There will also be a paint and tool set as well for the new edition, which will contain 13 paints, because, why not? So, 13 paints are Retributor Armour, Cantor Blue, Steel Legion Drab, Warflesh, Lead Belcher, Corax White, Ratcar Flesh, Bugman's Glow, Corn Red, Avalon Sunset, Baden Black, Agrax Earthshade, and Astro Granite. Alongside of these, you do get a set of clippers, which are the basic clippers, but they are still very, very handy. I have a set of the basic clippers that, in all honesty, have lasted me years. So, they're very, very handy to have. You get a standard paintbrush, which is obviously the crap one, and you also get a mold line remover, which I'm not going to lie to you, I don't like the mold line removers that you get with these little sets. They're a bit rubbish, and I prefer using a craft knife for it. Craft knife or a little sanding pad that you can get, they generally tend to work a lot better, in my opinion anyway. So, all in all, it's not too bad. Obviously, we don't know any pricing for these, which is the downside to it, but there is some pretty good stuff there. So, All of these sets are actually aimed to people kind of getting into the hobby for the first time in a lot of ways. So there's a dipping the toe in the water set, there's a design for those going waist deep, and obviously those who are jumping in feet first into the deep end of the hobby. Each is a very, very good starting point and should all be aimed at being affordable, hopefully. So it seems a little odd that these have been announced so fast. However, generally this is how they do it. They normally come out within a month-ish of the newest edition. So a month, 2 weeks to a month normally. However, the newest edition is still available in a lot of places. So if you go on to a lot of third-party websites, you'll still see Skaven Tide is still available. You will also see it still available sometimes on good old Warhammer.com itself. So it does seem a little bit odd how they're so ramped up with getting this out when, in all honesty, the box hasn't sold out everywhere. So it is what it is. Now, I personally do think that these are pretty decent, but obviously I'd like to hear what you guys think as well. So if you were going to get into the hobby, would you buy any of these products? If you were starting completely afresh, if you were just changing over from say 40k to AOS, then would you pick one up, and which one would you get? So let me know in the comments down below. But anyway, that is enough from me. Thank you very, very much for watching, and yeah, I'll catch you sometime soon. Bye bye now.